Hello, SUDD Committee. My colleagues and I are here to present why we believe the Elizabeth Street Redfern State Significant Precinct should be deserving of the SUDD Award.
Hi, this is Luke Luff, student number 12563678, talking about the Elizabeth Street Redfern State Significant Precinct for Sustainable Urban Design Development. Tonight I'll be giving you a description of the site, including policies, issues, and legislation. So the site, located on the corner of Elizabeth Street and Phillip Street, Redfern, as you can see on the left-hand side there. You've got the PCYC, you've got Redfern Oval. So the current existing development presiding across the road from the Oval consists of the South Sydney PCYC and the South Sydney Aboriginal Corporation Resource Centre and multiple gyms and fitness areas. In November of 2019, the Elizabeth Street Precinct was identified as a potential state significant precinct due to, I think, the indigenous feel of Redfern and how much this place means to the community of Redfern. During this time, the Minister for the Planning and Public Spaces announced a new precinct development plan, which also, as well as this site, it also included the development of previously identified potential state significant sites like this one. Key deliverables of this new PDP are the development of the site for social and residential areas, which is much needed at the moment, as this site is one of the main public housing areas in Redfern. It definitely needs to be increased in size. Floor space for the continued operation of the PCYC and gyms, and no overshadowing to Redfern Park, which was a major deliverable from the planning party. Existing planning controls, there are a couple that have a major influence on this development plan. So the current LEP contains multiple zoning laws, and since this precinct is classified as two different things, it's classified as a 2B for the residential aspect and a number 5 for the commercial special activity area. The height laws for those two classifications, at the moment the residential can only go up to 6 metres, and the special activity doesn't have a restriction. However, with the residential area, they're looking to do multi-storey apartment complexes, so that will need to change to be greater than 6 metres. In addition to the height laws, the proposal also hopes to increase the maximum floor space. Currently it's 1.5 to 1. However, they want it to be changed to 1.75 to 1, which will facilitate 351 new apartments, 1,600 square metres of commercial space, which again will allow for that PCYC, the fitness centres and multiple shops to continue to operate and to be brought into the area. Here is a little project timeline. So we've just finished off the planning party has just finished off the public exhibition and going to the consideration of submissions for the work within the next month.
My name's Lillian Awad and I'll be speaking about the indicators. Urban sustainability can be described as a city's ability to generate and maintain environmental conditions for an adequate, safe and healthy habitat intertwined with ecosystems to support it. The implementation of indicators helps to drive sustainable urban design by measuring the conditions and status of an urban area and determining ways in which cities can become more ecological. As such, these indicators are increasingly utilised as they provide a solid foundation for decision-making, measuring goals and objectives, defining evaluation criteria, and monitoring progress. These indicators help to achieve a high-quality sustainable urban design by incorporating and accounting for the protection of heritage, providing a sustainable infrastructure, and reinforcing cultural features. This can be systematically improved through the triple bottom line framework, which accounts for environmental, economic, and social situations. In this sense, a city is led to sustainability when it's able to provide an adequate, healthy, and safe habitat, protect, preserve, and rehabilitate its cultural, natural, and historical heritage, promote equity and social integration, and provides adequate conditions for human development and high quality of life.
Hi, this is John Mark Binscombe. I'm here to talk about stakeholders. Stakeholder management is a crucial aspect of sustainable urban design. This includes the processes of identification of people, groups, or organizations that could impact or be impacted by the project, analyzing stakeholder expectations and their impact on the project, and developing appropriate management strategies for effectively engaging stakeholders in project decisions and execution. As this project is still in the planning phase, a high-level stakeholder management plan has been created to highlight the current planning commitment to sustainable engagement with relevant bodies and cultural groups. Firstly, a stakeholder register has been compiled from meeting minutes of the Transport, Heritage and Planning Committee monthly meetings. Stakeholders identified by the Land Housing Corporation, LAHC, have been categorised into primary and secondary stakeholders. The key stakeholders include New South Wales Government, who are the landowners, the LAHC, who are the current state significant precinct applicants, the City of Sydney, who are now the Development Authority and will ultimately become the owners and managers of the space once the lease is completed, the Developers Consortium, who are playing a minor role at this point, but are still a key stakeholder, the PCYC, who are directly tied to the development and are conditional to the success and outcomes of the project, and Aboriginal organisations and cultural groups who have been closely consulted throughout the process in regards to land use, cultural significance, and project outcomes. Utilising this stakeholder data, a stakeholder engagement plan has been developed. This engagement plan has taken a cross-section of the stakeholders from the wider register to identify current interest and influence, along with the desired interest and engagement levels. From these values, engagement action and frequency can be planned to ensure that desired levels are achieved. We conclude that throughout the planning stages to date, adequate and thorough consultation of relevant stakeholders and cultural groups has taken place. A heavy emphasis from the planning onset has been placed on commissioning of reports and stakeholder consultation to ensure that the scheme's design and development is aligned to the needs of those future residents, tenants, and users. The final two stages of the project management planning process are management of the stakeholders' engagement and monitoring of stakeholder engagement. Both are a continual process and will be more applicable upon the next stage of the project as planning moves into the design, but will continually be practiced throughout the remaining phases. To conclude, we foresee the following future challenges. These include future stakeholder engagement and management as the project transitions from planning to design and construction. To explain this a little more, the current leading stakeholders must ensure that the transfer of relevant stakeholder information is passed to the Developers Consortium, and contractual constraints are placed on ensuring custodianship of the stakeholder management plan moving forwards. The second is gaining support from the current resistant stakeholders, notably the PCYC. As detailed within the meeting minutes along with the Community Plus website, two current scheme designs exist. One with the PCYC building and another where the PCYC has been relocated to an alternate site. Support from the current leasee PCYC is paramount to the success and sustainability of the design and project, and there are benefits for both the retention and relocation of this facility for future communities.
Hi, my name is Emily King and I'm going to be talking about the environmentally sympathetic design issues for our designated site, which is the Elizabeth Street Redfern State Significant Precinct. So before we get into evaluating our site's issues, we need to talk about what exactly is sustainable and environmental urban design and the values associated with urban design and landscape. So pretty much sustainable and environmental design requires developing an environment that meets the basic needs of human life. So living standards that go beyond that basic minimum are only sustainable when consumption of food, water, gas, electricity, etc. have regard for long-term sustainability, which a lot of the time they don't. The main challenges cities face today is the ability to manage the heavy dependence of ecosystem services. So these services are referring to supporting, such as oxygen production, provisioning, such as the production of food and water, regulating, such as the control of climate and disease, and finally, cultural and recreational benefits. So the dependence of these services is resulting in the depletion of natural resources and biodiversity, along with efforts to adapt and mitigate to climate change, which is a huge issue we're facing today. The sustainable design focuses on reducing natural resource consumption and waste production footprints. So pretty much it focuses on fulfilling the basic needs we have now in the present without compromising the future's needs through sustainability. So there are 4 main indicators to consider in environmental sustainable design. The first is precautionary principle. So this is pretty much, kind of recognizing the fact that we don't know everything. What happens if we make a decision that impacts on the environment where there is damage that we can't undo? For example, greenhouse gases. On a local level, we need to consider what is the impact of our actions in the development proposal. And we need to provide plausible alternatives that's going to kind of mitigate these issues as much as we can. The second is intergenerational equity. So making sure we do not use up all of the resources that we have access to now in consideration for the future. The third is conservation of biodiversity. So this is, pretty much conserving our flora and fauna, all of the species and ecosystems that are on, looking at which species are on the brink of extinction as well. So, in a local level, you kind of have to look about your surroundings and the relevant ecosystems in your development proposal and see how it's going to affect them. And finally, 4 is improved valuation, pricing, and incentive mechanisms. So this is pretty much thinking of smarter ways to pay for certain resources and to use certain resources. For example, paying for water and electricity based on individual usage. So the Elizabeth Street Redfern Precinct can be assessed based on the ecologically sustainable development principles, which are laid out in the Environmental Planning and Assessment Regulation, which was established in the year 2000. So the development is a part of social housing estate in Redfern. So it's subsidised by the government, and most of the resources and design factors, they're obviously going to be determined by the funds that are available, as it is a government subsidy. The development uses potable water, which could be minimised if it was connected to a source of recycled water within the development area in Redfern. It's just going to be based on, whoever's kind of putting the development proposal and doing their research. Due to the building being heritage listed and older, it is poorly insulated. So therefore, more energy is required to cool and heat the building. The tenants are also most likely to be using older and cheaper appliances, which tend to be less energy efficient as opposed to modern and pricier equivalents. So energy use patterns are a huge factor to consider too. People in financial stress, which we can assume some of these tenants are, often spend more time at home, which then results in increase in energy and water consumption because they're going to be spending the majority of their income on the bills, the necessities. So the water and electricity costs would be considerably high in this development as there are a large number of tenants living in these social housing developments under government subsidy. So those are the main environmental issues within the development. We are now going to talk about the control measures for the site. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ethan Zhang. Today I will talk about a discussion of control to reduce impacts on water, land, and air system, and biodiversity. There are 3 ways to talk about how to control the effect of our environment. First, let's look at the water reuse. The water reuse generally refers to the process of using treated wastewater for beneficial purpose. Agriculture and landscape irrigation, that means after we use the clean water, we can use it for irrigation or others. And it also can use for the toilet flushing, street washing, and fire protection. And then after that, we can use it for power generation to save the power and produce more power. Second, for reduce air pollution, reduce or eliminate fireplace and wood stove use, avoid burning leaves, trash, and other materials, and avoid using gas-powered lawn and garden equipment. For air pollution, when we're cooking, driving outside, producing something, it always produces harmful gas. We have 3 ways can reduce the air pollution. First one, reduce or eliminate fireplace and wood stove use. Second one, avoid burning leaves, trash, and other materials, and the leaves are natural fertilizer for soil. Third one, avoid using gas-powered lawn and garden equipment. For land and biodiversity. First one, reducing the use of non-biodegradable products will lower plastic pollution and eventually have an impact on land pollution. Second one, efficient waste disposal of industrial and household waste and separation. Third one, conservation of the green plants can save the soil from the pollution. That's all my part. Thank you.
My name is Zhen Li. I will speak in investigation, study, and recommendations. The Elizabeth Street Redfern State Significant Precinct is planning to deliver more social housing in the inner city. There are 46,530 journal applications and 4,484 priority applications on New South Wales Housing Register at 13 June 2019. But due to the economic impacts of COVID-19, I believe that the number will increase significantly in 2020. Build more apartments without affecting heritage and conservation area. The height of the building should be concerned. The site is surrounded by heritage items and conservation area. The conservation area on the west of the site are Redfern Park, which is a state heritage item, and Waterloo Conservation Area on the south of the site. Lower building on the south and the north section of the site, and the higher building on the Kendall Street and the corner. I suggest that the Precinct adopt a green building. Green building has advantages in construction material, water consumption, and energy efficiency compared to concrete and steel. However, concrete and steel are two of the most commonly used building material for now in the world, and the production of steel and concrete material account for about 8 to 15% of global greenhouse gas emission annually. People are trying to innovate both of the material manufacturing process, but it is a long way off from to call them green and sustainable building material. I also suggest that commercial building is built on the east of the site, where adjacent Redfern Park, and it can be built by timber. The timber is completely sustainable and renewable building material, and the carbon emission from manufacturing of the timber products, such as coarse laminate timber, is a fraction of those created by the production of steel and concrete. Also, the rain harvesting and black water green water treat system can reduce the water consumption. Cool roofs, green roofs, LED lighting, increase natural lighting, and use low emittance window and glazing. Energy monitoring and management system and advancements in heating and cooling systems, such as displacement ventilation, will all aid in reducing energy use in buildings.
And so, for the reasons listed in the previous sections by my colleagues and I, we recommend that this award be given to the project.